Good evening. Welcome to the Alpha Shift podcast, Alpha Shift Radio. I'm Dave Kruger.
And I'm Don Kovaleski.
And Don, my buddy Don Kovaleski, we have an announcement to make.
I was taken by the Alpha Shift Radio.
The Alpha Shift. I want to call it Alpha Shift Radio.
Alpha Shift Radio Network. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to. Let's get your announcement.
No, that's okay. That's good
because it just threw me from.
I have shifted it to Alpha Shift Radio, but I also have a further announcement that Alpha Shift Radio is going away, and Don and I are now going to be doing ASMR audios and videos. And Don, could you demonstrate real quickly what it's going to be like?
Yeah. Okay.
For those of you who don't know what ASMR is,
but people who do, like, how was your day? We're gonna take you into the evening here and just relax. We're just gonna talk about some things.
And you can go to sleep with that. A friend of mine was talking to me about ASMR earlier today, and Don brought it up when he came into the studio. I'm like, that's just so funny. It's kind of, when you were doing that right now, you kind of reminded me. Remember Alan Almond?
Yeah.
Of
course, we all do in Detroit.
Pillow Talk,
legendary radio. Yes,
legendary. I actually met him once.
Oh,
yeah, and he was hilarious.
I didn't think anybody met him.
No, he was real.
And I worked there at the stations for a little while, and I was like, was he really here?
My mom's second husband was friends with him.
Okay,
and so I was like 13 years old, and my brother and I got in the car with Ron, who was my mom's second husband, and he's like, "Hey guys, this is Alan," and he's like, "Hi guys, I'm Alan." We knew the voice. It was like, holy shit.
And that was the good old days of radio.
Yes.
We just get it right up on the mic.
Just right up on the mic. And this is Pillow Talk.
It's 8:30 in the evening, and we know what you got going on there.
We know what you got going on. I need to start doing that.
He didn't say that. But anyways, my mom was a big fan.
Most women were big fans.
This is funny, because what we're going to talk about today,
yes.
I was making notes, and what we're going to talk about is anxiety.
Anxiety. And
I was thinking about the old days. Like, was there some way that we lived that there was less of it? Or was it always there and now we're more aware of it? So we'll get to that. But
my theory on that one.
Alpha Shift Radio.
Alpha Shift Radio. I'm calling it that. It sounds a little bit better than podcast. Everybody's got a podcast. Yeah. I want Alpha Shift Radio to be like the radio network that you tune into for all things self-improvement and actualizing your greatest self. See, it's becoming a lot more. When the Alpha Shift began, it's grown with me. And it began as, a guy who was frustrated in his relationship that was going down the toilet, and where a lot of men start out. And now I'm in a place where I'm really spreading my wings and growing, and I really see that that's where we all need to go. And we just need to put our mission and our growth in life first, and a relationship needs to be second, not because it's not important, but because the relationship needs to be served by that growth and that mission.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it could be, a lot of these.
Maybe it focused on the alpha male when you started.
Yeah.
And now we're looking a little more in the shift.
Yes, yes.
How am I going to shift my attitude?
Yes.
How am I going to shift my behavior? How am I going to shift my approach to life, to relationships?
Yes.
And that's what if you have a good podcast, and we have a few listeners that have told us they really enjoy this.
Yes.
Well, that we're going to all kind of evolve together.
Yes.
If we can sit here for 45 minutes or so and talk about a couple topics.
Things that are important to everyone.
Yeah.
The things that everybody are thinking about. I'm going to say this right here on the air. Who I got a call from on Friday was Pete and Michelle.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. It actually was Michelle who called me. And,
okay.
Pete got
a college friend.
Yes.
It was the four in college. If we haven't mentioned on a past podcast, there was a group of guys called the Four Horsemen. Dave was one of them. Dave, Pete, Paul, Matt.
Yes.
Also known as Hot Wings.
Hot Wings.
And they had, it seemed like forever, but it was just a magical year. And
we were unstoppable.
Pete was one of the four.
Pete was one of the Four Horsemen.
And Pete,
he lives in Wisconsin now with his beautiful new wife, Michelle. And she's an admirer of my work and really likes what I'm doing and makes a point. And sometimes Pete gets on the phone. He's like, "Remember, she's married, Dave." He's like, Pete. But it was really sweet, to get a call and really get the compliment and the reaffirmation that what we're doing has value.
Yeah.
And that people are connecting with it. That's what makes it worth doing. If I thought I was just talking to myself the whole time, I wouldn't be able to do it.
It'd be a little depressing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but it's like,
but when you get that phone call, and when I was at a party this weekend, and someone said, I really like your podcast. Like, that's such a compliment.
I know it's
like,
just,
I know they're surprised that they do, and
yeah.
they weren't expecting it, and they're friends, so they were going to listen, but they're like, when is the next one?
Very cool.
I like listening to you and Dave. So
very cool. I'd love to hear that.
To listener Chris and listener Dave, both of you, maybe you were just being nice, but it really made me feel great.
And Bill, my friend from high school, who like right after Thanksgiving was like, "I really love your Alpha Shift podcast." And I haven't seen Bill since we were in college. And he went to U of M, I went to Michigan State. So yeah, it's a really neat. It's good to hear that people are getting value from it, and just know that we will keep showing up and keep bringing you our best.
Well, then let's get into it.
Let's get into
what we think is going to be valuable this week.
Anxiety. So the impetus for this episode, the inspiration was, Don, you had a screening at your daughter's school.
Yep.
The new documentary film, Angst. And so I'm going to ask you to just in a couple of minutes encapsulate that for us, and we're going to go into how this really relates to our listeners, and how anxiety is shaping so much of our lives and what we can do about it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to probably, for thousands of people who've seen it, I'm going to butcher, but this is what I got out of it. I think we all know that this anxiety and angst is a problem. I mean, we're Gen X. I mean, our Gen X is defined by our angst.
Yes.
And that we don't care, and we're never going to achieve the success of our parents, and that bothers us and affects how we vote and what we do, switching jobs. But so this movie really talked about how, what I took away from it was, here is what, maybe nervousness and worry look like. Mm-hmm. And then it got into what anxiety disorder looks like. And for me, it was really eye-opening to see. It talked about kids, because this was really, they showed this to all the student bodies, both at my son's high school and my daughter's high school. Okay. And then they invited the parents to come to a screening, and we all talked about it. And it really kind of laid out that we all have worries and we all have concerns. And some of us will worry about a thing, and then we'll just move on. And that's okay. That's what our brain is wired to do. Mm-hmm. It's very popular in self-help books that it's that flight or fight. And that's we go back 10,000 years, and that's where we're wired to have that little worry, and that's what saves us. That's what keeps us going. Like, is this a dangerous situation?
That's what makes you flee from the lion. It's going to eat you.
Yes, or I am hungry. I need to get food now, or I will not live another day. And it's that anxiety. Need to find food.
See, what I have heard, though, is that, like, now our worry and the lion coming to eat us is, are we going to have enough to cover the mortgage next month?
Yes.
Are my friends at school going to like me? Things that aren't life-threatening, but the adrenaline starts to pump through your body.
Right.
And you have the stress response.
And we have the same stress response that when we're going to save our lives versus just get past an uncomfortable thought.
Right.
And I don't want to ever minimize that, because some people can't take a step back, breathe, like the technique you did, a couple podcasts ago, and just realize, okay, this will pass. I've been in worse situations. I've been in great situations. I can count my blessings. So the movie was just very interesting, because it really detailed people who can't get past that.
Okay.
It was just, there was a particular kid in the movie that, his I forgot what, exposure therapy was, he had to walk into a store and just try on clothes and then ask someone, a random stranger who works there, if it looked okay, and then walk out.
And that was his exposure therapy that was going to get him over.
For him, he couldn't fathom ever doing that. And so again, there was a lot in the movie besides that, but it just talks about, so the things we're nervous about, like, oh, I'm nervous for the podcast, or I'm going to go tell a story at the Moth, or I'm going to try stand-up comedy. That fear, I'm almost bringing it on myself.
Sure.
But it's not real fear.
No.
And so it just talked about people who can't control that. And I just thought it was a great topic, because I think it affects all of us in many different ways. I don't know many people who just, walk through life and they always confident, never worry. And certainly anyone out there who is a parent knows that suddenly you have things you can't control.
Sure. And
it causes I have 3 things that depend on me for everything, and it causes me a bunch of worry.
Sure. I think there are some things it's natural to be fearful of. Yeah. Making sure that you can take care of your family. Fear of public speaking is one of the oldest ones in the book, and everyone has experienced. Everyone who does public speaking, experiences that to some degree or another. But I think anxiety is, first of all, I think anxiety is getting out of control. I think that some of the things we're seeing, like this young man in the movie who needed the exposure therapy, I don't think that it's healthy or normal to be afraid to go out in public and just have basic discourse with people. And I'm not blaming this young man like there's something wrong with him. There's something going on in the energy and the cultural zeitgeist that is making everything not okay. That is creating this anxiety and this general sense of unwellness. I dug up an article from AP News. As stigma ebbs, college students are seeking mental health help. And I'm just going to read the first page of this article because I found it to be very interesting that college students today are seeking help with anxiety in record numbers and they can't be served.
I read that article.
You read this article? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just read a few paragraphs for the audience.
I'll tell you what the quote that just jumped out. But
okay. More college students. This is by Colin Brinkley and Larry Fenn, by the way. More college students are turning to their schools for help with anxiety, depression, and other mental health problems, and many must wait weeks for treatment or find help elsewhere as campus clinics struggle to meet demand, an Associated Press review of more than 36 public universities found. On some campuses, the number of students seeking treatment has nearly doubled over the last 5 years, while overall enrollment has remained relatively flat.
That was the line right there.
Yes. Okay. The increase has been tied to reduced stigma around mental health, along with rising rates of depression and other disorders. Universities have expanded their mental health clinics, but the growth is often slow and demand keeps surging. Long waits have provoked protests at schools from Maryland to California, in some cases following student suicides. This is serious. Meanwhile, campus counseling centers grapple with low morale and high burnout as staff members face increasing heavy workloads. Okay, so we have a situation where there's an ever-increasing demand for mental health. Students are in serious distress to the point where they're protesting not having enough care on campuses.
Yeah.
What do you think, Don?
That's what jumped out at me. It is wonderful now that people aren't afraid to raise their hand for fear of being ostracized.
Right.
To say, I'm depressed.
Right.
But at the same time, there must be ways to cope with these things on your own. To help yourself.
And I agree with you. I think no one should ever be hesitant to raise their hand if they need some help. But I got to say that I'm a little alarmed at the amount of hand raising I'm seeing. And if it's this systemic, then there is something seriously broken. And I don't mean to bring up a real uncomfortable subject, but, when we've got young white boys all around a certain age grabbing AR-15s and randomly shooting up movie theaters, classrooms, I mean, it's a problem we have in this country. And I don't mean to, believe me, I'm a Second Amendment guy all the way, but I mean, I get as disturbed as everyone else when these things happen because I see the patterns in every single event. And I see,
and on the other side of the coin, I mean, I think back, I graduated in 91, so I was in high school from 88 to 91. I don't think I ever thought about suicide. I didn't know anybody who had committed it. Maybe your high school is a little bit different, but I really feel like in the 80s, early 90s, it wasn't as common.
No,
or maybe it just wasn't. I mean, we didn't have social media. We didn't have a million TV channels and outlets that everybody talks about these things.
And those things weigh heavily on. Those things are important.
I looked up the numbers too. It has steadily increased.
Yes.
And so we've got angry people resorting to mass violence.
Yes.
We've got sad people, unfortunately, not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, take their own lives.
Yes.
And we're not going to solve it on the podcast today, but it's something to talk about. Yes.
And to realize that generally as a society, we're moving in the wrong direction. And we need to empower ourselves, because the way it's going to, in my opinion anyway, the way we're going to fix it is each person taking responsibility in their own lives. To be mindful of their health, their thoughts. You can't legislate you can assist people, getting where they want to be, but, we're going to have to start getting people on the right track, getting people taking care of themselves, getting people watching their thinking. I'm going to get weird on you. Meditating, taking time to seriously get quiet.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is important. I'll share with you guys a meditation at the end too. I'm me, I'm always exploring and, breaking new ground.
Right.
But it's really, we're going to have to really take charge. I mean, all of us individually in our lives. And so, mental health professionals, it's too much for them. They're, kids are going to have to learn some new ways and get some support in different ways.
Well, it's very interesting, right, Dave? Because now we have access to more than we have ever had access to. And it always feels like we're gravitating towards the negative.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm gonna look, and this is gonna sound insensitive, but I'm gonna look about depression.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna look about my anger issues, and I'm gonna research that. And a person could just as equally Google ways to overcome that depression, to help fix that, to seek the right types of conversations to have with a friend, or find a counselor, someone. And that's, I guess it's that there is hope.
Don,
more than ever.
A very wise man once told me, you can't eliminate darkness. You can only replace it with light. How do you eliminate darkness? Turn on a light.
Yep.
So don't focus on the darkness. Focus on the light.
Yep.
And when we start doing that, I think that, when we get people focused on life-affirming activities, positive affirmations, understanding the true power of your thoughts and thinking positively, we get families doing things like meditating together. That's going to enable, parents to really be a space and help their children. So you don't have to always rely on, getting an appointment with a mental health professional. We just read the article in these colleges, they're like backed up for weeks.
Yep.
And so imagine if families and friends were empowered to help you if you were in trouble. And that's when you start doing these taking these more holistic approaches. And by all means, when there's an acute case and someone's severely depressed and a drug will help get them over the hump, fine.
Right.
I'm not one of these people who's like all extremely one way or the other. But for the most part, I mean, getting happy and getting over depression, it's a full-time commitment.
Right. Well, haven't we all bumped into people? And I know I've had these conversations, and they'll say, "Well, I'm a little OCD. Well, I'm a little ADD."
Mm-hmm.
Or well, no, you're
I
not.
used to say stuff like that.
Right. You're not.
No,
you're just self-diagnosing.
Right. You're making it true by saying it, and you're reaffirming it, and you're convincing yourself of it, and you're going to find a way to make it true.
I like blue pens, but I'm not OCD about it.
Right.
I just like blue pens.
Could you deal with a red pen if you had to?
Oh, I have.
And you have. Okay.
I use black pens. I use a pencil sometimes.
See, I love blue pens too. Black pens stress me out a little bit. Yeah. I got to have my blue pen.
I can't prove that I wrote anything if I'm writing black on a black page.
Yeah, right.
I can't, but the blue.
I mean, if I'm in a restaurant and I got to write something down on a napkin, a black pen will do. But,
right.
Normally I like my blue pen, white paper, that's what I like. So, yeah. So, I mean, I really wanted to take this discussion, of course, back to dating and relationships for the men, with our listeners, but this is such a broad topic. This literally permeates every area of our lives. God knows I've dealt with anxiety. I've got friends who take medication for anxiety. It's one of the most common ailments, just one of the most common things, because it's just a sense of not being all right. And the world is, we tend to focus on the negative. We tend to, we worry. Oh my God, do we worry and not create more?
I wrote a quote down here that anxiety is the time traveler's disease, meaning that you are anxiety keeps your mind always in the past, worrying about something that you did and you think is affecting you now, or you're worried about the future, and you don't live in the present. And my goodness, I'm guilty of that a lot. I always seem to go back to this, but I'll use church as an example.
Yeah,
1 hour a day or 1 hour a week, I go to church. That's what Catholics do, and I sit there. And it takes every ounce of my energy to focus on what's actually being said and not start thinking about, when I go home, I got to rake the leaves.
Yes.
Or I got to remember to get the gutters. And, oh my gosh.
You're futuring.
and I know it's foolish to sit on a Sunday morning and think about work and the emails that you have to return and the phone call you didn't make on Friday.
Yeah.
So I get it, and I think I want to think I'm not alone. That many times you're in a conversation with someone, and if your brain just moves for a second, suddenly I haven't heard what they said for the last 15 seconds because I'm thinking about, did I?
Yeah, Don, let me tell you, I had a meeting this afternoon with a very well-meaning financial planner who was talking to me about, saving for retirement and about life insurance and all of these things and about, like, if you want to retire at age 66, then you got to have this much. I felt like I wanted to throw up by the end of the conversation. Because, I mean, and here he's, helping people, he's a financial planner. It's what he does.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my God, all this is thinking about the past, the things I didn't do in the past and things I'm not doing for the future. Oh my God!
Yes.
On like limited resources, because that's the way that it's like you're going to make this amount of money for your whole life. I'm like, oh my God! No wonder people are so stressed out, and it's just that's a whole industry.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
he should just say, I've looked at everything, and I've prepared this 80-page report, and it talks about everything you haven't done and all the things that you should do,
and you're probably not doing.
But here's the bottom line.
Yeah, right.
Put $150 away a week.
Yeah, right. That's
Come see me when you're 62.
Come see me when you're 62.
Everything will be good, because that's what they always say.
Yeah, and so I went walking out of this appointment and say, I just got to make a lot more money, and you know what? I'll do exactly what I need to do. And then I got into a conversation with a dear friend who runs a very exclusive mastermind that she called basically to recruit me. I didn't jump at it right away. And there's a cost involved, and I was balking at it, but she's like, it's like your destiny. We are like, this is like a great group, and I see you, and it wasn't like a sales pitch. I mean, she doesn't like need my money, and it was like she was calling me to something greater, something so I can build the alpha shift to what I really want it to be, because I want it to be something amazing. But I'm going to need some very good people behind me, helping me, supporting me all the way, and it was like I wasn't stepping into it because I didn't feel like I was worthy of it. Wow, and I'm admitting this right on my own podcast.
We can edit that out.
Yeah, well, okay. Note to self: edit that line out.
22-minute mark.
22-minute mark. We edit that part out because
you don't come to this podcast to hear us talk about what we can't do.
No,
or what we're not worthy of.
You need to know that we're perfect. Dave and Don are perfect, and that's why we go and listen to them.
That's why anyone listens to this.
And if you believe anybody's perfect, you're crazy, right?
Right. That was one of the other notes I had about comparison and anxiety, and you talk about this financial planner, and of course there's this ideal.
Yes.
And social media, go back to the anxiety, and with kids and with college kids especially.
Yes.
I sometimes lament, and I know there have been studies that this glowing phone that is right in front of you, and right in front of me.
I've got mine on silent, thank God.
Actually, Dave texted me. This is a podcast is good because I actually don't look at my phone for 45 minutes.
Right, yeah, 45 whole minutes of the day you don't look at the phone.
But, this phone, this idea of having a phone constantly in touch with every single one of your friends, it's about a 10 or 12-year-old phenomenon.
Yeah.
That did not exist before.
That's correct.
So when we look at, kids, why are there more mass shootings? Why is there more anxiety and depression? Why can't they get in? And then, of course, the suicide rate. I can't help but think it has to be tied to that phone.
Absolutely.
To the fact that we are, first of all, on social media, always comparing ourselves.
Yes.
I am not attractive enough. I am not skinny enough.
I'm not as successful as my friend who's constantly posting about her real estate business.
I haven't been on a great vacation. I haven't seen the ocean and whatever, and this person seems to be there always, constantly. Then you add to it that it's this unhealthy blue light shining in our face, which no one had. Until we'll say even 15 years ago, but I think it was about 12 years ago, we didn't have that.
No, and if I can be honest with you, I check my Facebook probably 50 times a day. Oh, yeah. Even if it's for a couple seconds when I'm standing in line at the grocery store, I check. And I'm a 46-year-old man. I mean, what is it? What hope does a 10-year-old kid have?
You're right.
You know what I mean? It's like
because their whole life is there.
I developed this addiction as an adult. Mm-hmm. But I mean, a kid is has no chance.
Yeah, and it affects everybody. We're mid 40s.
Yes,
and I know my dad. I know the older, the baby boomers. They are also on their phones.
Yes,
they're texting with their kids, and now they're texting with their grandkids, and they're all on group chats, and suddenly,
My 70-year-old mother is the first person to like your stuff on Facebook because she's on Facebook all the time. You know what I mean? And she's 70.
Yeah.
You know, and so you're absolutely right. It affects all generations. And, you know, these young kids, they never knew a time without smartphones. And so they have a level of anxiety that to them is probably just normal.
Right.
You know, they wouldn't even know it's not normal.
2 days without connecting with somebody, it just blows their mind. That's impossible.
Right.
Like, I text someone, if they don't text me back in the next 2-3 hours, I better call an ambulance because something must be wrong with that person.
Right.
And if you get into the teenagers and 20-somethings, theirs has to be even more immediate. And you and I don't use Snapchat. But
no.
I have, and I know my kids they don't text. They snap, and it goes away, and there's groups and pictures. And
Snapchat's beyond me.
Videos, it's glorified texting. But,
okay.
But I just imagine that actually, it used to be perfectly acceptable not to talk to your mom for 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, maybe a week. And I mean, we went to college. We'd set up the weekend. Like, okay, I'll call you Sunday. And it would be the time.
That's exactly how I used to get snarky messages from my mother saying, "Hi, this is your mother. Remember me? I gave birth to you. Call me sometime."
Right,
because like weeks would go by.
And when you say you got a message, it was on an answering machine.
With a tape.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
And so where this is not like, hey, 2 old guys.
Right.
But it was the idea of being able to disconnect.
Yes. It was much easier to disconnect just a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And now it's like no one can disconnect. We can't disconnect unless we force ourselves. Right. Unless we go to a meditation retreat where they make you turn your phone and that stuff exists.
Right.
You know? And honestly,
my wife will get home from something and say, "Did you turn the oven on?" Like, "No." "Well, I texted you." Like, and it's great. It's like yes, that's a good thing. When I get the text, turn the oven on to 400. It's preheated. Right. She'd come in, start dinner. It's amazing. But in this particular case, I didn't look at my phone for 20 minutes.
You didn't turn the oven on.
And that is the world we live in. And
yes.
I know I'm not alone.
Yeah, no, it's true, and it's like if you don't, it's weird if you text somebody something and you don't hear back. So we're getting the podcast ready, and Don's busy at work, and I don't hear back from him in half an hour. It's like, what the hell is he blowing me off?
Right.
Yeah.
And I did forget one time.
Yeah.
So now you have that. It's that anxiety, and we're all in that world, and that's what I kind of made a note. Like I think
I'm beginning to work on it. I'm like not expecting people to respond right away.
The phone is a part that electronic phone is a part of this anxiety.
Yes,
I'm just
it absolutely
convinced of it. If I had the resources and the time, I'd do my own study. But probably the study has already been done.
There have been studies done, and apparently, if we wanted to, we could do an episode about this at some point in the future. There have been some Facebook employees that have come forward basically saying that they made Facebook purposely addictive.
Right.
And they know what they're doing, and they regret it.
Video games have been designed that way for decades.
Yes. So if we wanted to like do an episode about how addicting all this stuff is and there's documentation out there.
Right.
And
what's our best advice?
Our best advice, because we're going to have to deal with it because it's not going away. Facebook's not going away. Your iPhone's not going away. These things aren't going away. So we're just going right to the advice section. I had all this stuff planned for all these segments, and I'm just going to go right to a few things I had planned for recommendations. Okay. And there's going to be sounds on the microphone of me shuffling paper around. I'm learning to deal with that. That's okay. Right. You know, a couple of things.
Sounds very official, like we're prepared.
Mm-hmm. We do prepare. We do think about it a little bit before we come in the studio. First thing I would recommend, and Don, jump in here anytime, or if you want to augment something, take time to unplug every day. It can be an appointment with yourself. Like I meditate a few times a day. You don't necessarily have to be real formal about it, but take time. Have time to unplug. Shut the phone off, or at least put it on silent where you can't see it and you're not going to respond to it. And take time to connect with yourself. And to shut the laptop off too, the iPad, that goes for anything.
Yep, no TV.
No TV.
Watching Netflix is not unplugging.
Not unplugging.
You're still plugged in.
Not unplugging. So take time to unplug, and in that time you can sit quietly. You can journal about what you want. You can do some, what did we say, ASMR?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. You could do that. That's okay. You could use your phone for that. Like for that only. Put the headphones on. That's fine. But no going on Facebook, no going online. You need to start making time to connect with yourself, because what I want everyone to realize, and where I'm kind of going, in my own life, and what I'm going to start bringing more and more to the alpha shift, is that people don't realize that they are powerful creators, and that we're literally creating our lives. You're creating the next moment of your life with your thoughts and your expectations. And if people understood, this is a quote I believe from Albert Einstein. He said, if people understood the power of their thoughts, they'd never think a negative thought again. And it's really true. If you really understood the power of your thinking, you'd never think a shitty thought again. You'd never think a negative thought. You would literally, and this is what I'm focusing on. This is what I spend my time with myself unplugging doing. And it takes discipline, and it's hard because we're so used to thinking negative, and we're so used to going to worry. And so I'm using the discipline, same discipline to get in the gym and go work out when you want to stay in bed, is to sit down and start thinking about what you want. And I do future pacing, meaning like I'll just talk to myself about like that my dream already happened, or I'll journal about it, and start to really think about, whatever it is I want to create. And I'm
just allowing your mind to slow down.
And meditating is so important. There's a lot of different ways you can meditate. You can just sit quietly. You can do one of my favorites. It's called HoloSync. I can put a link in the show notes to the website. And these audios use binaural beat technology. And it takes your brain from an alpha, beta, theta down into delta brainwave. But delta brainwaves are like deep sleep, but you're like still awake. And so it like takes you to this deep sense of relaxation. And it's like the way a Tibetan monk meditates.
Right.
And it like accelerates you down there. And I find it to be wonderful for people who have anxiety. And who are, let's say you're like, yeah, okay, I would love to meditate, except my mind goes crazy and I'm sitting there for 15 minutes in the dark and I feel like my head's going to explode because I'm thinking about things. For people like that, I definitely recommend these audios because it makes your mind kind of go blank.
Well, this is the beautiful thing about the world we live in. Right?
Yes.
This is another thing we can get to is, when you journal, even if you just write the things you're grateful for, I could be grateful for your children, grateful for my job, grateful for the house, just grateful that I have a fridge full of food. If you're fortunate enough to have that, when you take the time it takes to write it down, not text it to yourself, to write it.
Writing is very important because it hits more synapses in the brain.
It forces you to slow down
when you're writing, and the best way to do it too is to write in cursive, as opposed to printing.
Look at this! Look at this journal right there.
Look at that! It's all look at you all written in cursive. And very legibly too. Yeah. I mean, my cursive handwriting it looks like a doctor's signature every line.
Well, that was perfection. Just when I was a kid, it was like I saw the cursive line, and I just decided I was going to have the best.
That is cool.
So it's less my handwriting, and it's more that I draw the letters, and I really just enjoy cursive.
Okay, so you make a point to do it. Good. That's how you do things right.
I'm a little OCD.
Wait a minute. No, I'm not. You're taking the time to do it right. That's what you do.
That just makes me happy when I open my journal and it's full of nice, beautiful cursive, and sometimes I see people with better cursive, and I think, I could do a little better than that.
Now I'm getting competitive. I want to make my cursive all beautiful.
There we are. Comparison. I'm doing the
comparison thing. I mean,
anyways, I was getting back to this beautiful world we live in, where everything is available to you. So in this podcast and the 2 episodes ago, Dave talks about a breathing and a meditation technique, and you just talked about a book, and we all know on our phone, go to the podcast on iTunes and find a guided meditation. We have those things. If you're lucky enough, you live in a city with a great library, I know they have audio CDs, they have books. There are so many ways to learn how to do this. One I really like is just in through the nose, out through the mouth, just very slow and measured. And then you add some thoughts, but it's just kind of breath meditation where all you're thinking about is the air going in and out. And if you can just learn to focus on that and not actually think about work and chores and the bills and the mortgage and the retirement or the meeting you have with the financial advisor, you will be amazed when you come out of that. And you didn't waste your time. You just helped reset your brain, relax a little bit. And it's so important.
It is so important. I just learned this new meditation. And it's basically you're imagining the white light of God's love that you are. And every time you breathe in, you imagine the white light in front of you getting bigger. And then when you breathe out, like all the toxins and stuff are leaving you. And then you breathe in, the white light gets bigger till it envelops you. And then when the white light envelops you, then you can think about the things that you want, the things you're grateful for. And then when you finally let it all go, you just send this white light out into the world. You send it out. You send this love out to every corner of the globe. Yep. Every corner of a globe that has no corners. And
unless you're a flat earther.
Yeah, unless you're a flat earther. Right. And it's a very powerful meditation. I did it fully this morning. And then I got in the shower and I had this like rampage of just thinking about everything I'm so grateful for. All the things that are going right in my life, all the things that are helping me, all the people who are there for me. And it was really amazing. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend that. And I can put a few links to some great meditations on YouTube.
And I'm going to as well, because I saw something. I watched something on Netflix about the brain. And I think I might have mentioned this 2 episodes ago, but it was about this monk that meditated, and they can age your brain. Like they can scan your brain, and they can tell someone who worries a lot. If you're an air traffic controller or you work in an emergency room, you have a high stress job, and when they scan that person's brain, they tend to look. The brain of like a 45-year-old will look like the brain of a 55 or 60-year-old because it has damage from so many stressful thoughts.
Yeah,
and then they found this monk.
That is a real thing.
He was late 40s, and according to the scan, he had the brain of a 30-year-old because he had learned to just. And we're gonna link this in the show notes.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to me because I know when we've talked about that monkey brain, when I'm thinking of everything, and I'm not living in the moment. Like I said, the anxiety time machine.
Yes.
You're either in the past or you're in the future. You're never really just focused on, hey, I'm with my good friend Dave.
Yeah.
We're doing a podcast. We know we've got certain number of listeners.
Yeah.
Some people said they really enjoy listening, and we're connecting with them. I can't wait to hear from them next time. Are they out? Were they driving and listening to this? Were they on their morning walk listening to this? But that charges me up because we're creating this community.
Yes.
Which helps my mind.
Yes.
So it's just the idea that example that you can make your brain younger.
Yes.
By some of these techniques.
I seriously feel that my brain, I stay young at heart. Everyone knows my secret that I have a few Star Wars action figures on the shelf that I just put near my books. Keeps me young at heart.
Buying my tickets for next Friday.
Yes, I got my tickets for Thursday already.
Oh, you're going Thursday?
Yeah, got for the preview night. Nope. I've got a text thread going with my brother and 2 of our friends, and they're all like,
I would expect that.
Yeah, spoilers, and I'm like, don't tell me anything, and they're like looking at every YouTube video that somebody's got like some new breaking.
I'm going Friday night with my son and 2 of my nephews.
Perfect.
And I can't wait.
I know it's going to be, and I my prediction, this one's going to be a home run. Everyone's going to love it, and Star Wars is going to be rejuvenated.
Yep, it has to be.
That's my prediction, and enjoying things like that. And taking pleasures and Pete actually, when he got on the phone with me last week, was like reminiscing about like when I would have like a model Star Trek starship in the fraternity house in my room, and it had like lights and it made like alert noises, bloop, bloop, bloop. And so one day, it was a Sunday night, and Paul and I, we were roommates. Well, we had adjoining rooms, and so we'd go shopping together and shared a fridge and stuff like that. And so we come back from Myers. We've been grocery shopping, and I come back, and there's the display stand with no ship on it. I'm like, shit! Where's my shit? And Paul, meanwhile, in the other room, because we have a shared phone line, he's like, hey, we have a message. And he plays it. I'm like, damn it. And I knew who it was.
Terrorized.
Yeah, Pete. I'm like banging on Pete's door, and I could hear him in there laughing, and the door's locked. And he was reminding me of that because, I shared on Facebook or like this other big model I had. And he's like, I would totally steal that from you. And
well, so that brings me to another idea.
Young at heart.
It's crazy. It's a crazy idea. But here's what you had from colleges, all those memories like that, okay, that involved doing things and being with people and talking to them, even if it was a prank at your expense.
Yeah.
I wrote down here like
the interaction.
What if for a week or for a day, every time someone sends you a text, instead of texting them back, call them.
They wouldn't know what to do.
First of all, you'll feel great.
Yes.
I promise you will feel great. Just call them.
Yeah.
And it'll freak people out.
Yeah, it will freak. Probably a lot of them won't pick up. They'll be like, why is he calling me?
Right. Turn the oven on to 400. Hey, Do you want me to turn the oven? Okay, I'm turning the oven on.
Yeah, why are you calling me?
Why
Yeah.
do you call? Like, I just wanted to say hello.
Yeah. Texting has made communication a little too easy and a little too impersonal.
Right.
And I admit, sometimes texting is very convenient. But I think as a society, are going to have to mature with the technology.
Yep.
And I think part of that, too, is part of the learning curve is all of this depression that we're seeing in kids and that we're seeing in college students and that and even in people our own age. It's across all age groups. I think that we're going to have to take a good, sober look at this and be like, what's the problem? And start, even with the technology available and even with the distractions like our iPhones in our pockets.
Right.
We're going to have to start developing healthier habits.
But it is in its infancy.
Yes.
Like when I say it's 10 or 12 years old, well, we're not expected to know ever, but now is the time as a society, we've got to figure out this is what we're going to do with the phone
yes.
and this constant connection and social media.
And it's not like alcoholism, okay? You can't just like swear off iPhones. You need to be able to communicate it at some point.
Yes.
But
we can do it better.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to have to do it better.
You can drink in moderation.
Right. You can be connected if you can do it in moderation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think what we're seeing is that we start as a society, we're going to have to see a lot of these negative effects firsthand, so that we can say, okay, we got to stop and do something. We've got kids who are depressed and suicidal and violent, and this has got to stop.
Right.
This has got to stop. And
you can't ever go back. You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Can't put the genie back in the bottle.
But you have to learn to adapt and deal with, what you have in this new technology. And it's the same way. I don't know. I think of cars, right?
Yeah.
At some point, like, okay, we have cars and it's not horses and carriages anymore and people aren't walking and now people are dying because of cars. Well, we've got to figure this out.
Yes.
And it's called speed limits and signs and rules of the road.
Yes, and traffic lights.
And we continue to evolve to make sure that driving can be safer. There are less fatalities and technology gets better. So we have this same brand new technology.
What if we treated technology like a controlled substance?
Yeah.
What if we actually treated it like a controlled substance? Mm-hmm. What if like your iPhone, because like sometimes like on the end of the week, my iPhone will come up with a report like saying you've had like 3.4 hours more screen time this week.
Yeah.
What if it could say, you're over your limit for this week, or you're expending too much time, or like if it watched you, if it like kind of looked out for you a little bit,
it'd be good for all of us.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, what if it's like you're reaching your safe, recommended, limits.
I think that's the next app, right? You go into the week setting your limit. And then you have to work around that, almost like a game.
App developers, are you listening? That's a great idea for an app.
We're going to edit that last 30 seconds out.
It's we're going to go invent it, right? Yeah, and we're going to and then we're going to retire and just live on the royalties from that.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, it's something that monitors your time.
So we have meditate and take time to yourself.
Because those are things that adults can do. Meditate, everyone should do. But yes, meditate, take time for yourself, focus your mind. What you really need to be doing is focusing your mind on creating what you want and really using your creative power. I think that so much of the depression and the despondency that we see is because people don't feel they're in control of their lives. It's the world can become
I was about to say helpless.
Helpless, yes.
It's that helpless feeling.
Yes, and believe me, I have felt helpless. I know what it feels like, right. and taking control is a heroic effort in your life, and it's not going to be easy or instant. When you've felt helpless, even for a kid who's when you're at our age and you've been feeling helpless the whole time, be patient with yourself. It's going to be a Herculean effort to turn it around, but you can do it. And the reason I say it's Herculean is because looking at the sun is easy, seeing this, but it's clearing the clouds, all the negative thoughts and the negative thought patterns. That's what you need to clear out. You need to shake off that weight and be patient with yourself because it can be a lot. If you've gathered a lot up in your life. And so, the meditations, I'm actually creating a leaderboard. I created, last week, I have some money I'd like to pay off. I've got income that varies, because I'm a business owner, so I don't necessarily make the exact same in October as I did in November. And so I've created these leaderboards. I wrote them out. I actually hand wrote it on white foam board, and I've got them up in my room. Where I look at them and I literally think about raising the score. I think about how much more I'd like to see it next month. And that's kind of how I focus myself. And I'm actually thinking of creating a leaderboard for my daily rituals, like journaling and meditating. Did I journal and meditate today? Check it off in the box. Seriously, treat it. The one thing I'm able to do is get to the gym every day because I feel like a shithead if I don't get to the gym. Right. And so I want to take that discipline and apply it to my meditation and to my journaling and 68 seconds of thinking about what I want. Abraham Hicks talks about if you could just for 68 seconds think about what you want with no resistance, you are literally doing 10,000 hours worth of physical labor towards manifesting what you want. And imagine all of these people who are depressed, who feel like nobody's listening to them, who feel like they can't get what they want in their life. If you really could focus your mind and get what you want, you would feel so empowered. Right.
Well, your list. Okay, so your board where you just journal and you got your leaderboard. Yeah. It's your own gratitude journal right there.
Yes.
And because the hopelessness and depression comes from when you just think about things you're not doing.
Yes.
I once started to write a book, and I felt like my first chapter was going to be, I've never climbed Mount Everest. I've never run a marathon. I am only 5'5". I have never, I've never lifted this much weight. I've never done this. What business do I have writing a book? There's all these amazing things that people do. I've never done any of them.
Right.
And of course, then you feel worthless.
Right. When you think about when you look at
I've never been to Italy. I've never been to England. I've never been to Greece. I've never seen those things. I don't have a boat. I don't have a motorcycle. So
you're thinking of things I wouldn't even have thought of that I don't have.
Oh yeah, no, but that was I was starting to write that book who would read my book?
Right.
I have no business writing a book or having a podcast with all of that. But but then you turn it and you say, okay, wait, but what have I done? Mm-hmm. And what do I have? And when you have this leaderboard and you're saying, I went to the gym.
Yeah.
I meditated. I actually didn't buy Starbucks. Instead, I put those $4 in a canister that I'm going to put in the bank at the end of the week.
I raised my income 50% in a month.
Raised my income.
Yeah.
I did another podcast. Episode 10, 11 are we on?
This is 10?
Yeah.
This is 10.
We committed to this.
We committed and did it.
It's rolling forward. I've got listeners. So again, I know not everybody's life is going to be good in all moments, but if you can focus on the negative, or you can really think about the good.
Yes.
And I know whoever is listening, you've got good.
Yeah, you've got good. And let me tell you something. A very dear friend of mine, you talk about, you started that chapter of your book and, all these things you didn't do. I actually had a friend tell me I need to take the first episode of the Alpha Shift podcast down because she says, you cannot present yourself as a financially challenged man, and I have been in the past, who is divorced. No one wants to hear that. No one wants that guy. I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't realize I presented it that way. I did end up taking the episode down for a different reason. But because Brian was like, please just take down everything. My brother has retired from the Alpha Shift. If anyone's wondering where he went, Brian is officially retired. He decides he does not want to be an internet celebrity and that he's perfectly happy in private life. But he wishes us all well and loves the podcast. And, but yeah, she's like, do not present yourself that way and rewrite the pages of your website that you have to too. Yeah. So I am. I'm doing it. She just, I tell them, there are very few people in this world who can just point their finger at me, tell me to do something, I do it.
Well, I recommended the book Storyworthy.
Yes.
By Matthew Dix.
Yes.
And actually, he has a wonderful podcast. Every week he does one, and it's about storytelling. And just last night, he told a story. And he's a teacher. Mm-hmm. And he talked about a kid that he was really ready to give up on.
Okay.
And then something happened, and he realized the error was that he, for years, by November, if he couldn't get through to a kid or couldn't change it, he was giving up on that kid. And he was ashamed of himself. And the idea was he presents his own flaws, and that's why he is a master storyteller.
Yes.
He wins. People applaud. He wins the Moth. He's written books.
Yes.
He has a very successful podcast. He will take your story, and with just love and care, he will take your story, make it better, take things out, put things in, and it's power. And the reason I share this is because you said take that episode down. Why would you?
Right. Yeah.
It's like you were speaking from the heart.
I took down the video. I left the audio.
Right.
Up.
But you.
And,
Okay.
And
you are divorced.
I am. Yes. And my intention in sharing, there were subtleties in that, in the way it's presented. So, you presented as, okay, this is who I was. This is what I've been through, but this is what I've been able to achieve. That was the point she was making.
Right.
And, and so it's really just a matter in the way it's presented and stuff. And so, yes, that is who I am. I do like to share my story because I want guys who listen to be able to relate and not be thinking like, oh, this pompous ass just thinks he's so great. Right. No, man, I've been there. I've been to the top. I've been to the bottom. I've been everywhere in between. Right. And that's my point in sharing that.
Getting to that divorce, at some point you loved with all your heart.
All my heart.
That person, there was excitement.
I never loved anyone like I loved her. I would have done anything for her at one point.
So you lived that. That is your truth, okay? And we know friendships don't last forever.
Correct.
Marriages don't last forever.
No.
You're in that club.
Yes.
But it's nothing to be ashamed of.
No.
And again, and that goes right back to the anxiety.
And that does go back to the anxiety because we have we're culturally, I guess, indoctrinated to have certain expectations.
Right.
This is how your life is supposed to go. You're supposed to get that college degree in 4 years. You're supposed to get married and it's supposed to be successful. And then you're going to have 2.5 kids and 1.5 pets in a nice house in the suburbs.
Yep.
And that's what you're going to have.
Work at a job for 25 years.
Work at a job for 25, 30, 35.
Smartly put money away in your 401k.
You're going to put money so that you're going to have a wonderful retirement at 65 years of age, and you and your wife are going to travel the world and have a great time, and your grown kids are going to be very successful in their own lives and come see you at Christmas.
And any deviation is a failure. And you need to worry about how you're going to get back on that perfect track. But that's
exactly. And you want to talk about somebody who deviated from that. I don't even live in the same zip code as that shit. And so you're somewhat in the neighborhood. Me, I'm not even in the same zip code as that shit. And so it creates a lot of stress. And I think a lot of unnecessary stress because, I put the expectations on myself. We are here to develop and grow and realize that we are powerful creators and create. That's the point of human life. I might have butchered it a little bit, but that generally is the point of human life. You are meant to grow and experience the perfection of yourself, and you are perfect. I'm getting a little weird, but that really is, that really is closer to the truth. Or does it feel better to say you are put here to work for 40 years and make sure that you pay a mortgage and then die so someone else can come take your place in that house? That's nonsense. That's not what you're here to do. And so,
and that's what we're not going to get to. One of the other things that you had as a show note was anxiety and how it affects relationships and dating. But I think that's it exactly. It's that expectations, and this is what a perfect date should look like. And this is what a perfect relationship should look like. And we talked about this episode. Let me just wrap it up real quick. We talked about, the various ways that anxiety and society's expectations play upon you. So let's say you've got two people, a man and a woman, both have these things playing upon them, and they get together. They just magnify each other's stuff. That's exactly, a lot of these marriages that are ending in divorce and sometimes in bitter divorce, that's really what it is. You've got two people whose issues are just magnified. Yep. And I've heard it said in so many words that a relationship is a mirror. And so if you've got stuff you're struggling with and you get into a relationship that's a mirror, it's like, oh, there you go. And you're mirroring each other. And you're expecting that somehow this was going to work out and be happily ever after when you're both bringing all this stuff to it. Yep.
No wonder it's fireworks. So we couldn't solve all the world's problems in one episode, but, to be continued.
Yeah, I was just looking at my notes here because I wrote that exact same thing down, is that I think some people, like the dating, you get into, okay, you know what? I'm lonely and I'm broken, but if I could find someone to love me and I could get into a relationship, then things will be better. Maybe that person can help me. And I just think, no.
That's exactly what people think, and it's exactly wrong.
Right. You've got to help yourself.
Yes, you've got to help yourself.
You've got to go into it saying, like, I'd like to help this person.
Yeah.
And if you put your whole heart and you just give everything to that person, tell me which relationship has a better chance of going.
And let me tell you something. If
let's you and I date. I need a lot of help. You're going to give me a lot. Or, hey, let's you and I date. I think I can provide a lot to your life. I think your life is pretty good. It's attractive, and I want to be a part of it.
Don, that's perfect.
Yeah,
when
I
you
make it
that's
better.
perfect. When you think about how you're going to show up and what you're going to provide to a potential mate, now you're on the right track. And let me tell you, you get two people together who are both on that track, you'll be unstoppable.
Yep.
You know, you're supporting each other, you're trying to provide for and help each other, and be a space for each other and love each other. You'll be unstoppable. But yes, most of us, we go in. What can I get out of this? If this doesn't go my way soon, I'm going to bail. I mean, you know, I've got options. I'll just get back on Tinder.
And we'll wrap up. But it can go to a friendship. It can go to a job. It can go to a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring everything that you've got to it, and you're going to make it better, it's going to be positive.
Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich says, always render more service than paid for. And that goes for a secretarial job. That goes for an entrepreneur. That goes for someone who is dating. That goes for your spouse. Always render more service than paid for. And you'll never go wrong. So, yeah, take time, meditate, and provide for people. Think about what you can give. We covered a lot of stuff.
Listening back, I hope it was focused in some way.
It was. It felt focused. We just kept growing and reaching for greater concepts. So anyway, Don and I got to go because Jay's going to kick us out soon. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
Yeah, always thanks for listening. We'll be back again.
We'll be back. We'll be back again, and we will see you next week with some more fun and surprises, and maybe a mini review of the new Star Wars movie, because we will have seen it by then.
Yep.
Yes.
And we'll
We
review it.
we'll have to have a little bit of talk about that.
All right.
All right. Anyway, a good night, everyone. We will see you next time.